Welcome back to our channel. Today, we're diving into the world of the Hells Angels, uncovering 10 untold stories you've never heard before. Stay tuned. Man, the Hells Angels. Just the name itself conjures up so many images, right? Leather, Harleys, that iconic Death's Head patch. It's a subculture that's been mythologized, demonized, and endlessly debated for decades. You think you know them from movies or sensational news headlines, but there's always more to the story. Always layers that get peeled back when you really start looking. We're gonna go deep, man. We're talking about stuff that doesn't always make the front page, the kind of details that paint a much more complex picture than most people get to see. It's not just about the bikes and the brawls. It's about origins, codes, global reach, and even some things that might genuinely surprise you. How does a group like this even start, and how do they maintain such a powerful, almost legendary status for so long? It's a wild ride, no pun intended. So buckle up, because we're about to explore the underbelly, the lesser-known facts, and the enduring enigma of the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club. We've dug through archives, looked at different perspectives, and tried to piece together a narrative that goes beyond the usual cliches. This isn't just about reinforcing stereotypes, it's about understanding a phenomenon. This is going to be interesting, for sure. Let's get into it. Alright, so let's kick things off with where it all began. The origin story. You gotta understand, man, this wasn't just some random dudes deciding to buy bikes. We're talking post-World War II, late 1940s California. A lot of these guys were veterans, coming back from the war, feeling a bit displaced, maybe a bit disillusioned with civilian life. They'd experienced intense camaraderie, adrenaline, a sense of purpose. And then, suddenly, it's back to picket fences and 9-to-5s. That kind of transition can be brutal, you know? So, they found that brotherhood, that excitement, again on two wheels. The official Hells Angels Motorcycle Club, the one we know today, was founded in Fontana, California, on March 17, 1948. But the name itself, Hells Angels, that had been floating around. There was a World War II American volunteer group bomber squadron in China, the Flying Tigers, that had a squadron nicknamed Hells Angels. There's debate about the direct lineage, but the spirit of these daredevil flyboys, the rebellious streak, it definitely resonates with the early biker ethos. It was about freedom, a rejection of the mainstream, and finding your tribe. These weren't just motorcycle enthusiasts. They were building a counterculture from the ground up, fueled by gasoline and a desire for something more. Now this next one, Altamont. Man, December 1969. This event is legendary for all the wrong reasons, and the Hells Angels were right in the thick of it. The Rolling Stones wanted to throw this massive free concert in Northern California, kind of like a West Coast Woodstock. They ended up hiring the Hells Angels, supposedly on the recommendation of the Grateful Dead, to do security. The payment? Allegedly $500 worth of beer. Think about that for a second. Security for a massive rock concert, paid in beer. What could possibly go wrong, right? Well, pretty much everything. The vibe was off from the start. It was chaotic, disorganized, and there was a palpable tension in the air. The Angels, armed with pool cues, were trying to manage a massive, increasingly unruly crowd. Fights were breaking out, people were getting hurt. Then, during the Stones set, Meredith Hunter, a young black man, pulled a gun near the stage. A Hells Angel member, Alan Passaro, intervened, and Hunter was stabbed and killed. The whole thing was caught on film in the documentary Gimme Shelter. It was a brutal, ugly end to the peace and love 60s dream, and it forever cemented the Hells Angels' image as violent outlaws in the public consciousness. Whether they were solely to blame, or if they were just a symptom of a badly managed, volatile situation, is still debated. It's wild how Hollywood has been fascinated with the Hells Angels and biker culture in general for decades. From Marlon Brando in The Wild One, which, by the way, predates the Angels but set the whole outlaw biker image, to countless other films and TV shows. The Angels themselves, though, they've had a more direct and sometimes complicated relationship with Tinseltown. You had guys like Sonny Barger, probably the most famous Angel ever, who actually consulted on some movies, trying to bring a bit of authenticity, or at least his version of it, to the screen, but it wasn't always a smooth ride. Hunter S. Thompson's book, Hells Angels: A Strange and Terrible Saga, that was a huge deal. He spent a year riding with them, and it was a pretty raw, unflinching look. It definitely brought them into the mainstream consciousness in a way nothing else had, but it also ended with him getting a serious beatdown. Then you have actors who were rumored to hang with them, or who were just drawn to that rebellious image. Hollywood loves an anti-hero, and the Hells Angels, for better or worse, fit that bill perfectly. They represented a kind of raw, untamed masculinity that was both alluring and terrifying to the established order. So, how does a motorcycle club from Fontana, California, end up with chapters all over the damn planet? That's the story of the Hells Angels' international expansion, and it's a fascinating piece of their history. It wasn't an overnight thing, man. It started slowly, the first international charter being established in London, England, in 1969. Think about that, the same year as Altamont. While one event was dragging their name through the mud in the US, they were simultaneously planting their flag overseas. That's pretty wild. From there, it just spread. Europe, Australia, South America, Canada, even parts of Asia and Africa now. Sometimes it was existing local clubs patching over, meaning they'd be absorbed into the Hells Angels organization after a probationary period. Other times members would move to new countries and establish a presence. It's a testament to the power of that brand, that image, that mythology. People across different cultures were drawn to the same ideals of brotherhood, rebellion, and the allure of the open road, all under that iconic Death's Head patch. It's like a franchise, but for outlaws, and it created a truly global network which, as you can imagine, also brought a whole new set of complexities and conflicts. You can't talk about the Hells Angels without talking about their constant run-ins with the law. Man, these guys have faced some serious legal battles over the decades. We're talking massive federal investigations, RICO charges. That's the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, designed to take down organized crime. Law enforcement agencies like the FBI and ATF have spent incredible amounts of resources trying to dismantle the club, labeling them as a criminal enterprise involved in everything from drug trafficking and extortion to violence. Some of these cases have been huge, spanning years and involving dozens, sometimes hundreds of members. There was Operation Black Biscuit in Arizona, the Lennoxville Massacre in Quebec, which involved an internal club war but had massive legal fallout. The government's argument is often that the club itself is a criminal organization, while the Angels maintain that they're a motorcycle club. And if some members commit crimes, that's on those individuals, not the entire organization. It's a constant cat-and-mouse game, a war of attrition, with high-powered lawyers on one side and determined federal agents on the other. It raises a lot of questions about individual liberty versus collective responsibility, and how far the government should go. Now, here's a side of the Hells Angels you don't hear about as much, and it's one that often clashes with their hardcore public image: their charity work. Yeah, you heard that right. Many Hells Angels chapters around the world are actually involved in charitable activities in their local communities. The most well-known of these are probably the toy runs, especially around Christmas time. You'll see hundreds of bikers, Hells Angels among them, riding together to collect and donate toys for underprivileged kids. It's quite a sight, and it definitely challenges the stereotype. Beyond toy runs, some chapters organize fundraisers for local causes, support veterans groups, or help out after natural disasters. Now, cynics might say it's just good PR, a way to polish a tarnished image. And maybe there's some truth to that, who knows? But for the people on the receiving end of that charity, for the kids getting toys or the families getting support, it's real. It shows a different dimension to the club, a connection to the community that often gets overlooked in the headlines about crime and violence. It's one of those complexities that makes the Hells Angels such an enduring and frankly confusing subject for a lot of people. Every organization like this, especially one that operates on the fringes, has its own internal code, its own set of rules. And for the Hells Angels, this code is paramount. It's not something you'll find written down in a public handbook, man. It's more of an unwritten law, passed down, understood, and fiercely enforced. Loyalty is huge, probably the cornerstone of it all. Loyalty to your brothers, loyalty to the club, loyalty to the patch. Betraying that trust, talking to law enforcement, being a rat, that's the ultimate sin, with severe consequences. Respect is another big one. Respect for fellow members, for the club's hierarchy, for the traditions. There's a structure, there are officers, president, vice president, sergeant-at-arms, and their authority is generally absolute within the chapter. And then there's the secrecy. What you see here, what you hear here, let it stay here, when you leave here. That kind of mentality. This code binds them together, creates a tight-knit unit, but it also insulates them and makes it incredibly difficult for outsiders, especially law enforcement, to penetrate the organization. It's a world unto itself, with its own justice system and its own way of doing things, far removed from mainstream society. You can't be a dominant force in the outlaw motorcycle club world without having rivals, and the Hells Angels have had their share of serious, often violent conflicts with other clubs. This isn't just casual dislike, man. We're talking deep-seated feuds, sometimes lasting for decades, often over territory, respect, or control of various illicit enterprises according to law enforcement. Clubs like the Bandidos MC, the Outlaws MC, the Mongols MC, these are some of their most prominent and long-standing adversaries. These rivalries can erupt into full-blown wars, with shootings, bombings, and targeted killings. The Great Nordic Biker War in Scandinavia in the 90s between the Hells Angels and the Bandidos was insane. We're talking anti-tank rockets being fired at clubhouses. In Canada, the Quebec Biker War was incredibly bloody. These conflicts aren't just about machismo, they're often about dominance and control. It's a brutal, dangerous world, and when these clubs clash, the consequences can be devastating. Not just for the members involved, but sometimes for innocent bystanders too. It's a stark reminder of the outlaw aspect of these one-percenter clubs. Within any legendary group, you're gonna have figures who become larger than life, and the Hells Angels are no exception. The most obvious name that comes to mind is Ralph "Sonny" Barger. He was a founding member of the Oakland, California Hells Angels chapter in 1957 and quickly became the club's most recognizable public face, and for many, its de facto leader for decades. He wrote books, appeared in movies, and was the guy the media always went to when they wanted to talk about the Angels. He was charismatic, articulate, and absolutely uncompromising in his loyalty to the club. But Barger wasn't the only one. You had figures like George Christie, who was president of the Ventura chapter for a long time and later left the club, writing a tell-all book that caused a lot of controversy. There was Yves LeBoss-Buteau in Canada, a powerful figure during the violent Quebec Biker War. And then there are countless others less famous to the public, but legends within the club itself, known for their toughness, their loyalty, or their role in key events in the club's history. These are the guys who shaped the Hells Angels, who built its reputation, and whose stories contribute to the ongoing mythos of the world's most famous motorcycle club. So, what about the Hells Angels today in the 21st century? Are they a relic of a bygone era, or are they still a powerful force? Well man, they're definitely still around, and they're still making headlines. They've adapted like any organization that wants to survive. They have websites, they use social media, though probably not for their more sensitive club business, you'd imagine. They're still a global organization with chapters in dozens of countries, and that iconic Death's Head patch is as recognizable as ever. But the landscape has changed. Law enforcement pressure is relentless. Public perception, while still mixed, is heavily influenced by decades of negative press and true crime documentaries. There's also competition from other clubs, and the internal dynamics of maintaining such a sprawling international organization must be incredibly complex. Some say they're more sophisticated now, perhaps more involved in legitimate businesses alongside whatever else they might be doing. Others say they're just as hardcore as ever. The truth is probably somewhere in between. They remain an enigma, a closed society that continues to fascinate and, for many, intimidate. The roar of the Harleys hasn't faded yet. And there you have it, 10 untold stories, or at least lesser-known aspects, of the Hells Angels. It's a wild, complex world, man, far more nuanced than the simple good guys versus bad guys narrative you often get. From their post-war origins, born out of a need for brotherhood, to their global expansion, the intense legal battles, the shocking violence of Altamont, and even their surprising charitable efforts, it's clear that the Hells Angels are more than just a motorcycle club. They're a cultural phenomenon, a symbol of rebellion for some, and a criminal enterprise for others. The truth, as always, is probably buried somewhere in the gray areas, under layers of myth, media hype, and closely guarded secrets. What's undeniable is their enduring presence and the powerful grip they hold on the public imagination. These stories, hopefully, give you a broader perspective, a deeper understanding of the forces that shape them, and the legacy they continue to build. for better or worse. It makes you think, doesn't it? About freedom, loyalty, rebellion, and the very nature of subcultures that exist on the edge of society. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more fascinating stories. Let us know in the comments what you found most surprising, or if there are other aspects of the Hells Angels you'd like us to explore. We're always looking for the next deep dive. See you next time.